Welcome to another episode of Natural Family Planning Office Hours. I'm your host, Theresa Notare, the Assistant Director of the Natural Family Planning Program at the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. Let's begin with a prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen.
Amen.
Heart of Jesus, burning furnace of love, inflame our hearts for love of you and our neighbors. Send us your Holy Spirit, that we may be animated by his love and give glory to God the Father in our lives. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen.
Amen.
Our guest today is Diane Daly. Many of you know her. She is the former Diocesan Natural Family Planning Coordinator for the Archdiocese of St. Louis. She's also an NFP pioneer, having worked for many years in developing and promoting the Creighton Model method of fertility care. And Diane has such experience that one of the many topics we're going to be tapping her for is this one that we're talking about today, which is clergy education, natural family planning outreach education for clergy. She has some pretty nice things that they had done over the years in the Archdiocese of St. Louis, and she's going to share that information with us, and then we'll have a discussion afterwards. So Diane, if you'd like to welcome, and again, I'm so grateful that you're here. If you'd like to share your screen, that would be terrific. We can do that at this time.
Okay, so we're shared.
Yes, see that. Great.
Okay, great. Okay, well, hello, everyone. It's great to be with you, all the pioneers in the natural family planning community, some of the best people in the world, I think. So I'm real happy for the opportunity, Theresa, to be able to share some of what we've done with clergy in our archdiocese. Mainly today, I'll talk with you about a binder that we have put together. Like this is it. It's for clergy, and it has several inserts that I'll be talking with you about, as well as a video series that we've developed and a parish ambassador program. So I'll, in the next about half hour or a little less, I'll review those different things with you. And my hope, you know, I always like to think, well, what is the hope for the talk? What is the outcome? Well, I really hope that you will take advantage of some of the materials that I'll present to you. If you like them, they're available on our website. I'll have that address on the screen in a little bit, and they're free to you to download if you would like to use them. If anyone wants this whole binder, we do provide it. We've had quite a few requests for it as maybe a model for your own diocese, and we're happy to provide that. We do have to charge $40 for that just to cover the expense of putting it together. But all the materials could be downloaded if you wanted those. So let's go. This is our logo, NFP, Natural Family Planning, Good for Life in the Archdiocese of St. Louis. And I mentioned our NFP Parish Ambassador Program. Well, this was one of the first formal outreaches that we had for pastors. And we met with them individually, saying that we would like to develop a representative in their parish. And we usually had a name that we would suggest to them to represent the Archdiocesan Office of Natural Family Planning. And our mission was so that we could have a visible presence in all the parishes in our archdiocese and connect our pastors and priests with the many services that we provided. So we developed NFP representation in parishes where the request was made and approved. And we have, I think we have about 32 to 34 parish representatives now. And we do have a person designated to be in charge of that, who's trying to increase those numbers. They're mostly volunteer couples who are using NFP and obviously happy with that, and they want to evangelize back to the church. So we tell the pastors, why is this important for you to even have such a designate in your parish? And first of all, natural family planning can be used to avoid or achieve pregnancy. It's all in harmony with church teaching. And so it's important that the congregation would realize that. It's also very helpful for people with infertility who are often struggling alone, and even for women's health to offer alternative to some of the conventional approaches, which would be birth control pills and maybe even IVF and so on, and to help them see that there is another approach in harmony with our faith. And finally, to help them see that this will build strong families within their parish. And it's been our experience that a lot of the people who actually volunteer in parishes are people who are NFP users. They just have a love for the church and they want to help evangelize. So we try to present this as like a win-win for the pastor so that he would be energized about this. And in all the talks that we've had with the parish pastors about this, they've been overwhelmingly supportive. They're kind of really happy for the help. And what has been very clear to me is they had no idea of the scope of services that we offered. Even though we think we're out there publicizing, there's just something different in sitting with someone one-on-one and talking about our different offerings. So through the parish ambassadors, one of the priests said, I feel uncomfortable knowing what to say to engage couples to help them know about NFP. And I would love it if you could provide a video series for us. So we spent, actually, we do have a shoestring staff, so it took us several years to put this video together, to pilot it, to refine it, and so on. But we did develop the video series that this priest wanted, and they are available for you if you would like to use them, see them. They're on YouTube, and the address is right there on your screen, bit.ly/NFP natural choice. And there are 3 separate videos, and they're listed in the bottom part of your screen. And the first one is NFP, the natural choice for a strong relationship. And that is about 5 minutes. The next one is NFP, the natural choice for women's health. And we do have a couple of physicians on that video also. By the way, these are all, the speakers on all these videos are users of methods. It's not myself or our other providers. It's very user focused. However, in the natural choice for health, we also feature 2 doctors. And that one is about 5 minutes. And then the third one is the natural choice for family planning. And this one goes into the into what is NFP, just the basics. And it is not method specific. These are all general NFP. The one that I mentioned first, the natural choice for strong relationships, is actually a little bit longer. Now that I think about it, that one's about 8 minutes long. So we developed these 3 different videos so that priests could use them at different times in their preparation, particularly for those getting married, but they can use them in any parts of their ministry with anyone who has these questions. So you're welcome to utilize these. We did put a lot of money in this. Fortunately, we have wonderful support from our Archdiocese, from our annual Catholic Appeal that assisted us and paid for this project. So our goal is not to keep these in St. Louis or sell them. Our goal is to evangelize and assist with some of the resources we have that others may not have. So I'd invite you to look at them. And if you like them, feel free to circulate. So then our marketing expert said, okay, now we have these videos. How are we going to get them out? And I'm like, well, we'll just send them to everybody. No. She said, we have to have a comprehensive package. So we went through several ideas and we ended up with this binder to introduce the videos. But then we decided there were a lot of other things that could be in this binder. So we illustrate the services that are offered through our office. We provide talking points for priests about various reproductive situations. And then we developed tier 1 and tier 2 of the priests we wanted to visit. Tier 1 were those that we were pretty sure were already pretty supportive. And tier 2 were those that we didn't know as well. So then, so we had this great idea. How are we going to get this to the priest? So we had a big party and we invited several different contacts. Probably we had about 80 invitations, something like that. And we asked if anyone would like to participate in the project. And we had a huge group of volunteers who signed up for this. And the sign up was that they would go with the binder to meet an individual priest. They were able to choose the priest they would like to meet with, and they would explain the binder and its contents. We then had all these volunteers and we developed a video and written instructions for each volunteer. So they would feel very comfortable knowing how to approach the priest. Some of these volunteers were providers of NFP, but most of them were users, people who just wanted to evangelize. We wanted to track this, so we tracked each personal encounter. We tried to know exactly how many binders are out there. We have a pretty good number of that. And then we sent thank you notes to each volunteer who assisted us. To date, we've made 148 that are recorded to 126 clergy who were visited personally. Now, some of that number is different because some people haven't made their assignments yet. During COVID, it's like most of the country, we were kind of locked down. So we had kind of an innovative approach. We would call the priest, drop the binder at the rectory, and then have a video or telephone conversation with them. Not as good as that atmosphere in person, but we did some of that. So 85% of our visits are complete. We're continuing our tier 1 outreach, and we've moved to tier 2 also with more priest targeted. Our volunteers have gotten a little weary because now we're going on 3 years, and we had that hiatus where they weren't very active. So we're trying to re-energize them and utilize some of our parish ambassadors also. And this was our numbers as of Halloween. This is a busy slide, but it does list all the contents of the binder, and I'll just quickly mention we put a provider list of all NFP providers as well as physicians who are NFP only, our nanotechnology physicians. We have a dozen differences handout, which tells the dozen differences between NFP and contraception. It's very popular. We have Be a Man About It. One of our couples, the man and one of our couple volunteers said, you know, your materials look a little too feminine. How about doing something a little more masculine? So he assisted us in putting this cool flyer together, Be a Man About It, which really challenges men to be the leaders in their family and also to focus a little bit on what their really discipleship is and what their discipline opportunities are. It's just a 2-sided flyer. Then we have the Enkindle Ministry flyer, which is our program that provides support to infertility couples, and also our Archbishop Robert J. Carlson Adoption Grant Flyer. Every year we award grants to those who apply, who are adopting or have adopted a child. Our Wonder of Eve flyer is for our high school students. It's a really, I think it's a great program. It again took us a long time. We refined it, revisited it, but we now have it licensed because we want to be sure that for our young people, the information that is given is exactly as we want it to be provided. So that's available on our website. There is a fee for that one. But then the license, if you would purchase the license, you can use the presentation and all the accompanying materials forever. Also, we offer that out of our office for 1 time or 2 time if people just want us to give the presentation. We have a Body and Soul letter. It's one of the best letters that I've personally read by Archbishop Carlson, our previous Archbishop. And the Body and Soul was in honor of Humanae Vitae, and it brings in JP2's philosophy, St. JP2. We have Connect With Us cards that I'll show you in a moment, and video cards and infertility cards. And then one of our newer pieces is 3 things that Catholics should know about NFP. And we have that in a bookmark form. And that is, we developed it for the Curia actually, but some of the priests have liked that to give out. And then we have a prayer program with our seminarians. So we put a sample of that invitation in there so that our couples with infertility can reach out to a seminarian by sending this card in, and the seminarian will pray for them. And there have been some beautiful relationships that have developed where the couple then begins to pray for the seminarian's vocation also. So that's been really cool. And then finally, there's a poster that some priests have liked to hang in the back of church. Some have asked us to make it video, and we have done that also. So that's pretty much the contents. You can view this on this is our website, stlouisnfp.org. And if you go to the resource page, you can access, download, print any of these resources I just mentioned to you. Please note on this STLOUIS, there's no dot between the ST and Louis. It's just straight, stlouisnfp.org. This is one of the little cards, and I can show you, we have a section with all the business cards arranged together, and one of them is for the infertility support group. So they could just hand this business card to a couple with infertility. They can contact the office for support. This is for the video series, and we said, you could have those in your confessional and just pass them out to penitents if you want to. And then we also have the NFP Good for Life card, which is just for general information. Now, some of the talking points in the binder are these. We have 5 different sections. Talking points for the engaged, for those with infertility, for miscarriage and stillbirth, for contraception, and for theology of the body. And the way we have them organized is just they're tabbed in sections. They're tabbed in sections so that people can, just go straight to engaged and be able to have those talking points. And this all came from the one priest who said, I don't know how to really talk about NFP. And as we met with priests, we kind of found out that was pretty common. They certainly had the theology, but there was a hesitancy about how they can approach the subject and what they can actually stress. So we developed the talking points with suggestions from our NFP teachers who worked with couples in these categories. We worked with our marketer and myself. And then in each of these topics, we also have the resources that are listed for their reference, the resources from our office that they can use for that particular topic. And for each of the topics, we have a specific saint listed at the top as the special intercessor for that particular issue. So to quickly go through these 5 areas. Oh, and I should also mention for this 5th one, theology of the body, I felt ill-equipped for us to tell the priests how to talk about theology of the body. So we worked with the academic dean at Henry Glennon Seminary and also a medical consultant who's a religious sister who specializes in giving talks on theology of the body. So that made me more comfortable in that topic. So for the engaged, we just help them understand that this can really change people if they understand what NFP is, that it's one thing to teach theology, but it's another thing to actually give the application, the opportunities for application of the theology through our offices. We explain the 4 different family planning briefly that we offer out of our office. We stress that for the engaged, even there might be potential health issues. We've even helped engaged who might be prone to having a miscarriage, and that's uncovered on their chart, and they can go to a physician for diagnosis and treatment if needed. And then we try to have them understand that they can dispel the myths that some people might have. They might or might not have large families. We encourage responsible parenthood. They should learn with a trained teacher on their own. The woman isn't the one in control, it's about the couple. And this is encouraging their expression of their love, not discouraging their intimacy within their marriage. We ask the priest to consider sending them 3 to 6 months before the wedding so they can have good communication and good knowledge. And we're all about building the strong marriages. And we tell them, God provides the grace for them to meet these challenges. And there are teachers who can help them with their unique situations. With infertility, we help them see that if they're not already aware, that there's a lot of pain and grieving with infertility, and that the pastoral approach is so helpful in terms of accompaniment and listening. Some people feel self-blaming or unworthy, and they need a lot of support to move beyond that, because God does have a plan for them and loves them. Maybe it's with a birth child, maybe it's through adoption, maybe it's in another way of parenting. And then we encourage them to realize that, yes, they need medical, emotional, and also spiritual support. So we talk about our different ministries and parent group and our social media. By the way, we do have Enkindle Wednesday on our Facebook page. And the first Wednesday of the month, we have a community rosary. And that's also taped, and it's really had a great response. You're all welcome to join that. We talk about support groups, and this is kind of a sensitive thing, but we say, don't just dismiss their pain by saying, well, just pray and don't worry, it's all in God's time. Those things are true, but the couple really has told us that they need more support, more spiritual support. We tell them a little bit about IVF and IUI because sadly I found out that some of the priests don't even realize what it is. So we help them understand these different aspects that are not within our church teaching. And then we do introduce NAPRO technology, helping them. We're fortunate in St. Louis to have quite a few physicians who practice NAPRO technology. And we help them see that it's actually more effective in infertility treatment than the conventional IVF and whatever. And we talk about our adoption grant. We've given a couple $100,000 out now to several families. And when a couple's ready for adoption, they are so happy to recognize that the church offers them something, that the church understands their pain. And some priests don't know about secondary infertility. Well, you've already got a child or two, you're fine. So we explain the pain in secondary fertility too. And then there's some thoughtful touches that the priest can roll out to their parishioners, offering mass or rosaries or prayers for them, being sensitive on Mother's Day and Father's Day, maybe sending a card, recognizing how they recognize mothers and fathers on those days, maybe having all men and women who parent in any way stand up, for example. And then we have more suggestions on our website. We have a special section on miscarriage and stillbirth, and again, asks the priest to accompany the couple in their grief, that it's very painful. It's like the loss of any child. If the child's preborn, it's still they what to realize that it's a very painful experience. That sometimes they connect with others through our Enkindle group who've also experienced loss. So they can encourage the naming of the child, remember the baby in conversation. They could do a graveside service. They can ask if they have gotten medical care to help find the underlying cause of their miscarriage, refer for NFP, and avoid the common reactions like the baby's in a better place, you have an angel in heaven, you can always try for more. I like to think of my baby, our child that we miscarried, as an angel in heaven, but sometimes people need to hear more than that. And then in our Mother's Day and Father's Day petitions, we ask them to please include parents who have lost a child pre-birth or who have placed a child for adoption. Contracepting couples, meet them when they're at. The 3 C's we recommend are being clear, consistent, and compassionate. NFP is the most natural, healthy, moral approach. Fertility is not a disease, and NFP is as effective as any contraceptive or more effective than some of them, if they're used and taught correctly. And we tell them some of the side effects of contraception, how it can be a barrier to the couple's relationship, particularly as St. John Paul II has taught us, and to listen carefully in all of these areas, listen to the couple's difficulties, and then encourage them to work with an experienced NFP provider. We also talk a little bit here about marital chastity. Couples choosing not to have intercourse on fertile days develops trust in God. And then finally, in my few minutes left, NFP and theology of the body. St. John Paul II uses theology body as a catechesis to understand spousal love between a man and a woman. So we talk about Jesus as the model of self-giving love, and couples using NFP share in the reciprocal gift of self with one another. And we talk a little bit about marriage and the Trinity. And, this can be conversational with the priest because they may be well-schooled in this. We can have a conversation with them. And that the Trinity is a communion of persons whose union brings forth life. And marriage involves a communion of persons whose union has the capacity to bring forth life. So we help the priests perhaps see they understand these concepts, but does the engaged couple in sitting in front of them have these and points they might be able to stress? Marriage and the Eucharist, that Holy Communion is the one flesh union of persons that give life. Marriage is a one flesh union of persons that has the capacity to give life. Marriage on the cross, Christ made a complete gift of his body and blood to us. And in marriage, spouses make their complete gift of body and blood to each other so that there might be life. And then couples are challenged to not only believe theology body in their minds, but to live the faith with their bodies. So in conclusion here, we believe, this is my belief, our Holy Catholic priests, obviously they want to lead souls to heaven. That's why they're priests. That's their job, their role. But the area of natural family planning is not well understood by many of the priests. The priest is the spiritual father and leads couple to holiness. And the priest has everything to say about this as our spiritual father. And the laity can assist in this important goal through providing the priest with tools to help couples in their journey with NFP and to really teach the theology of the church, of our teaching, and its application for everyday life. So in summary, this is what we're trying to do. We have had no negative experiences. We have had one priest who was invited to meet with us who said he didn't want to meet, and he didn't say why. But other than that, in our individual meetings, there have been no negative experiences, only gratitude. And it actually gives us the opportunity to affirm the priest's vocation. And we always start with that, with an affirmation of, thank you for your vocation, Father. We can talk about something personal that we know about the priest before we get into all of this. So that in a nutshell is our binder and our booklet. And we'd love to share that with any of you who would be interested in. Have any comments or questions, or Theresa, anything that you'd like to add?
Yes, I've got many, so I'll start us off. Diane, that is a wonderful program. It's so beautifully outlined, and to have the resources available on your website is very useful for all of us, right? I do have a technical question. Why did you decide to go in the way of creating a binder, a hard copy for the priest? And the reason why I ask this is because more and more here at the Bishops' Conference, we're constantly being challenged to do more digital resources because we're told that young clergy, young adults, that they're going to want to grab our resources off of our website rather than us mailing a hard copy of whatever to people. So why did you go the way of a hard copy binder?
That's an excellent question, excellent point. And we actually followed up with website resources for them. So I think we developed this way to accommodate our individual encounter with the priest. And also it was the opportunity for us to actually physically show them the different flyers, the different pieces that they could actually utilize. Gave them a few little free pens and booklets and things like that. But that's an excellent point. So we did follow up with the website resource.
And I could see the logic of you needing it to be hard copy because you have the companion ambassador program that goes with it. And there's nothing like having that real person meeting with Father or with the deacon to get to know real people who are living the church's teachings, to see that the resources that you have are real and tangible. So I get that missionary aspect of it. And then here's another technical question then that would go along with that. Do you think it would work to just mail these resources to your clergy, sending a packet to Father? Say if you had a donor who produced all of these binders for every single parish in your diocese, do you think that would work, or it would just be another resource that would get passed on?
Thank you. Two things. First of all, some of the priests have said they like the binder, they'll just pull it out when they're doing marriage prep, so for the hard copy part. But then secondly, to mail them would certainly be something that we could do. We really wanted the personal encounter. And we really wanted our couples, some of whom are parish ambassadors, others are volunteers who speak in our marriage preparation programs. We wanted them to have the opportunity for evangelization and to be part of the team. But certainly we could mail them. And we've actually talked about doing that for our second and third tier priests if we don't have enough volunteers to meet them, because certainly that would be better than for them not to have the information at all. we have something every Wednesday through the diocese called an internal memo, and it goes to curia, priests, and deacons. And we have taken each section of the binder every month to, and this is all electronic. It's all like they just send it electronically. And we have a little space in there, and we put our website, and we highlight one particular area of the binder so that the priests, curia, or deacons can go to that and see that particular resource and all the others. And then next month, we highlight another part. So it's just another way to try to get our information before them. And deacons, we have met with a few deacons, but our deacons, there are many deacons who are doing marriage preparation and counseling people in these areas. So we have reached out to deacons during their formation with this same information. And we also, for 1 year, had a monthly video sent to every deacon in the Archdiocese with some of these ideas. But there's always more we can do, for sure.
Right, great, thank you. I see that Armida from the Diocese of Phoenix has a question. Armida, did you want to ask it directly? Or maybe she's just,
Sorry.
there you go. That's okay.
Yes, thank you for this. Is wonderful. It's been on my mind for, well, forever. How to approach our priest. So first of all, thank you for that. And I wrote down that just some practical questions as I heard you. Is how long is the visit? Just about the visit, how is that organized?
Perfect.
How long is it? How do you know if it's been used? Do you have a follow-up? And then my other question was, if you invited other people from the parish to that meeting, sometimes it's good that others know what it's about.
Okay, thank you. Those are terrific questions. The length of time with the priest is 30 minutes, but what has happened is sometimes the priest expands that half hour to a longer time. We don't want to take more time than he's allowed for us, but sometimes they just really get into conversation and it goes longer. So, but 30 minutes is what we recommend. How do we know if they're using the binder? It's very hard to know for sure the outcomes of our efforts. However, each year we gather statistics from all of the providers of NFP about their referral sources. And what we found is that the first year we did this, there was an increase in the church and marriage prep related referrals. When we didn't do it very often during COVID, those referrals went down. And then when we initiated again, the referrals went up this last year. So that's not totally concrete, but it's about the best way we have of evaluating if it's making a difference or if it's being used.
And do the priests contact you directly, Diane? Do they ask for updates to the materials, or do they let you know how it's working with these resources?
Disappointingly, not very often. That does not happen very often. And our diocese is a little bit reluctant to send multiple emails from different offices to the priests. We've been able to do that once as a follow-up. That was one of the other questions. How did we follow up? We followed up with a little survey and we got very little response back from the priests on that, unfortunately. I want to think it's because they're so busy, because as most dioceses, our priests are really overloaded and there's a shortage. But it could be that they weren't interested in responding to the survey. It could be they didn't get it. I mean, it could be they didn't open it. We don't know, but we did follow up that way. So I have just recently become a consultant for the office, and Alec Coro is my new director for the Archdiocese. So she's working with the marketer now to see what will be their next steps. Will they do more electronic? But we want to keep these materials in the view of our priests because we feel like they're actually so helpful if they will utilize them. And then you had one other question. Oh, do we ever invite deacons, marriage prep, and coordinators? Here, it seems like there's a little bit of sensitivity maybe with the pastors, many of whom are a bit older, although recently there have been a lot of younger pastors appointed. but we wanted to be very respectful to them in terms of a one-on-one encounter. But now we've reached out to some of the other priests, deacons, and sometimes the pastor even invites a deacon to come. We have not met with marriage prep coordinators, our family life directors, although that would be a terrific audience to meet with, but we have not done that to date.
So in your diocese, just for clarification's sake, you have marriage preparation coordinators that work individuals in the parishes. Is that how you're organized?
Thank you. The majority of our marriage preparation is done through the family life office in like weekends, like a weekend retreat. Well, it's not a retreat setting, but day retreat setting for a couple of days. That's the majority. However, there are several parishes who have marriage preparation coordinators in their own parish, and they do all the coordination themselves. And then the third area is engaged encounter. We have an engaged encounter group who meet about twice a year. So we provide them with materials for the engaged. We have a donor who gives Christopher West's book. Why did the name just escape me? You know what it is. God's Plan for Marriage. And he donates to give that to every engaged couple. So it comes through our office and we give those to Family Life and Engaged Encounter and so on, of all the preparers that we can find. We don't have a real good list of those parish coordinators.
Right. So it seems to me that that's the next goal, right? To get that binder in their hands as well. I'm just so impressed by how well the binder is put together with substantive resources. Other dioceses have done different versions of this approach, but you know, the combination of having the ambassador with the binder, I think, is critical. And if you could say a little bit more about the ambassadors, how you train them, how you identify them, because that is, it's always been the personal touch where you establish relationships that really can move something. And that to me seems to be key in all of this.
Okay, sure. There was one last question, I think, from Armida.
Sorry.
Do the volunteers, yes, they're the ones who contact the priest and set up the time and everything with them. The volunteer does that. Okay, so Theresa?
The ambassadors, yeah.
Yeah, to your point about parish ambassadors, we struggled with this at the beginning because we didn't have a strong structure. And we had volunteers, but we didn't have enough concrete things for them to do. So now we do have concrete things. They receive a monthly email with prayer and suggestions for future endeavors from our coordinator of this program. We are advertising in our e-newsletter through the Archdiocese for additional parish NFP coordinators who would like to join the team. We have an orientation for them, another binder that was developed a long time ago for them so that they have some resources. And we ask them to do things like make sure notices are on the bulletin board, contact their pastor about any important NFP events, the NFP week flyer, for example. Some of them have organized speakers for their parish. We have a new project in our archdiocese called All Things New. Some of you may have had that in your own dioceses. And it's an overlook of all the evangelization in our diocese, parish structure, schools, and you could probably guess what's coming next. It's going to be some combinations of parishes, I think from 180 to something like 80 or 90 parishes. So it's a huge project. So our project was then to take some of these parish ambassadors from the parish and help them meet others in their region so that you'd have parish ambassadors from different parishes who would get together periodically. That's limping along a little bit because we're not sure where All Things New is going to go. Our archbishops have encouraged us to go ahead and move forward with those projects. So I think we will do that. But this is another way to give the parish ambassadors support of one another. we picked them as people. They were handpicked, first of all, people that we knew through the NFP provider who said these would be good people. And that's still our favorite way to provide an NFP ambassador. But if people, they volunteer through our e-newsletter, then we just interview them, talk to them. We have volunteers who do marriage preparation for us for the Archdiocese for about 20 minutes. They speak about their experience with NFP, and it's like relationship marketing with the engaged before them. And those were some of the people who are also our parish ambassadors. And we know they're really solid because we obviously don't want to have a parish ambassador who's not well schooled and not necessarily in methods, but in our philosophy and our values and beliefs. And then we recommend to them, do not try to talk NFP methods to them. Your role isn't to teach it all. We're not equipping you for that. But then you can connect people with our adoption grant, our providers, our infertility group, and so on. Did I answer your question, Theresa?
Oh, yeah, no, that's perfect. Okay. Rebecca also had a question. Rebecca, did you want to ask it yourself?
Yeah, I was just curious if the parish ambassadors are ones that are are any of them NFP instructors themselves, or are they just ones who, use and promote NFP?
That's a great question. Our providers are pretty busy, so we may have, I don't even know if we have one couple who is a parish ambassador who's actually a teacher. They're primarily volunteers who are looking for an evangelization opportunity. So they do practice NFP, though. We only have people who practice NFP to be our ambassadors. Another area that we hope to have is a weekly or biweekly bulletin insert, emphasizing, at each of the bulletin inserts, a different aspect of our ministry. We've talked about it, but we have not done that yet. But yeah, they mostly are not instructors because they just don't really have the time. But we wouldn't mind if instructors wanted to do that. That'd be fine.
In terms of these ambassadors, I like the general structure that you have where you've got them involved, you've given them some kind of training, but you're not putting heavy burdens on them as volunteers. Because I could see on one hand, it's good to have as a goal one person in every parish who is then connected to the diocesan NFP ministry, the marriage ministry, however it's organized in your diocese. And then having some kind of goals, like maybe bringing a speaker in twice a year, something loose like that, not like every month crank out some NFP activity in the parishes. But I can also see how that NFP ambassador can also be the person to raise the issue of chastity and fertility appreciation education in the parish as well, bringing parents and children together. That's one of the things that we have been talking about for years in the diocesan NFP community, of introducing this information along with the values and church teaching at earlier ages, and doing that appropriately with bringing parents and children together. We've never really found a strong structure, but I can see the potential for that in the NFP ambassador who's in the parish.
Yes, we do. We have asked our ambassadors to be advocates for the Wonder of Eve program, which is the program I mentioned earlier for high school sophomores. And that program, it doesn't really focus on natural family planning per se. It focuses on how beautifully God has created you as women. And we have what I think is kind of a cute thing, that every woman has 3 gifts that are unique to women: ovulation, gestation, and lactation. And girls, we tell girls, these are special gifts that you have that you really need to cherish. And we talk about how, we do a little anatomy and physiology, reproductive anatomy and physiology, about how beautifully you're made and how your reproductive system works, and how it doesn't have to be changed necessarily by drugs. However, we recognize that there are times when your body doesn't work in the way it's created, like with severe cramps, unusual bleeding, premenstrual tension syndrome. And we talk about some of these things. And we say, there are approaches that can help you find the underlying reason for that condition. And we encourage you to talk with your physicians about that. So we're doing several things. We're trying to affirm the beauty of creation of the woman. We're trying to help them understand how their bodies work naturally. And then we're trying to help them see that they don't have to, we don't say this out loud, but between us, we don't want them getting on birth control pills because they're having unusual bleeding. And then they stay on the pill for 10 years and they come to us then with the same problem they had 10 years before. But we've piloted this several different ways, and we learned that it was too much for a 15-year-old to hear about birth control pills and talking to your doctor about could you get off them or anything like that. So we just try to empower them to ask the right questions. And we feel like that's part of education. And we do tell them, if you don't have a doctor and you've got these issues, we can tell you, we've got a listing of physicians who can assist you. And we only have one NFP chart in the whole session. And we emphasize that you can track your signs of fertility now with some help. And you can use this system when you're married for family planning. And we don't do too much more than that on natural family planning. So it's really a different approach than many of us have used in the past. For 20 years, I went into the high schools talking about anatomy and physiology, and this is NFP, and this is spice sexuality, and all these wonderful things. But actually, it was my niece, my young niece, a young married woman, and she said, Aunt Di, you're going into the schools and nobody's listening to you. She said, why don't you go in with a health perspective instead of this church theology approach, which I didn't really think it was necessarily church theology, but that was, perception's reality, right? So she said, I think if you could help the girls realize that they can understand their bodies and use that for family planning for their whole lives, that would be very helpful. So we do have a little slide on that too. How you might be single, you might be married, you might have children, you might have infertility, you might breastfeed, but a natural system can help you with all of that. So was really the impetus for it. And I'll tell you what, we've got it for the young girls. We now have a similar program for young women, college age and older, which is more specific about the effects of the pill, side effects, marital intercourse, purpose, teaching of the church. And when we've given that presentation to these college age and older women, we've had as many as 50% of them wanting to use a natural system. And most everybody's saying, or they put in the chat, is there anybody who can help us with our cycles? And these are Catholic groups of women, but it just demonstrates the point that we sometimes think we're out there with our outreach, but we're just not always being heard. We just have to, continue different ways.
Right. And finding different avenues to get the message out. That's right.
Right.
Let's see. Janelle asked, is The Wonder of Eve available in Spanish?
It is. It is. I'm so excited. We just have completed the translation of the PowerPoint, but along with this license agreement comes a video and outreach materials for promoting it, pre and post tests for the people who participate, a trailer. So we're looking at all that, and we're involved in those translations now. So the PowerPoint itself is translated, but the whole package is still in process. The first full translation has been done, and actually I have some friends in Mexico who are reviewing the translation again for its accuracy. So we're really excited. We do not have it in any other language yet, but we're excited to have it. It will be available as a license purchase in Spanish very soon.
Excellent. And Diane, did you say that, Janelle asked this question, did you say that there was training for the teacher as to how to use this program?
There's written training. We can certainly do one-on-one assistance if someone needed that beyond what we provide. But we have a video that explains several of the areas, and it's very, very comprehensive about how to use it. The PowerPoint presentation has the whole commentary with it for every slide. And it even outlines in the license what slides you're allowed to change, like, for example, for your own program title and your name and things like that. So that's all outlined with the package. I think, like I said, it took us a long time to develop it, but some things you develop and you think, well, they're pretty good, but could it be better? But I feel pretty excited about this one. I think that we had a whole team of many, many people working on it, including a pediatrician, by the way, a neurotechnology pediatrician. So yeah, I think it's good. We just want to get the rest of these materials into Spanish for the Spanish community. However, if someone on this call would like to preview it, either one of the programs, we can arrange that for you if you just email me. And also, if you wanted one of our trained presenters to speak to your group virtually, we also offer that through our office. And the license itself is $400. To have a presentation given is much less expensive because it's just a one-time presentation, whereas the license is forever. You can use it as many times as you want. So we're happy to do that. We had to charge for the license, just because we'll never recoup our expense on it. And that's okay. Like I said, it's more an evangelization tool than it's not a business proposition. Our marketer is like, you should be charging thousands of dollars for this. And I'm like, well, the market won't accommodate that.
That's right. Yeah.
We don't want to, we want to get in people's hands. We don't want to make it. Yeah.
The Wonder of Eve is a one event educational encounter. So it's a one event program, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And again, everyone, this is important to keep in mind, because when we're educating in the faith, when we're educating in the methodology and science of NFP, one-shot educational interventions are important. That can open the door to a person's mind, right? And then there are other programs too that might be lengthier. And we know that if you know your people and you know what their needs are, you can enhance things by starting with something like this and then continuing with even more. So for example, Teen Star, that has been around forever, that Dr. Hannah Klaus had worked on with a number of other educators and medical professionals. That's a school year program. That's something that requires training of the teachers to use the curriculum. It requires knowing how to meet with the parents and then how to conduct the lessons.
I should be clear, ours very much does not go into teaching how to chart at all. But something you said, Theresa, triggered,
that
mother-daughters.
Teach that, yeah.
We encourage mother-daughter viewing of this.
Right.
It can certainly be the girl. I mean, it's not a girl alone. A group is usually, it could be in a high school setting, but we've had several groups of mothers and daughters who've watched it together, and we evaluate, of course, afterwards, and we really all positive comments. People really do like that. And one person who works with a neurotechnology physician, she used this as a business approach to encourage medical care within the neurotechnology practice. That was her goal. And so we worked with her. She had mothers and daughters participating. And then I don't know the outcome of how many of those women and daughters actually entered the neurotechnology practice. But it was a little, different than we might have anticipated, but certainly beneficial, because there you've got the young girls who might be having bleeding disorders and other reproductive issues, going to a nephro doctor who's not going to put her on the pill.
That's
and
right.
will find the underlying cause of the condition. And I just feel in my heart so committed to that, because I feel that women are so misled, even by well-meaning conventional physicians who don't realize that there is another approach that they could be using. So on our Mercy side, which now has new leadership also, it's all about getting out there to the physicians, working with them to try to help them understand the value of this. And one outcome of that, this is off topic a little bit, but I think it's exciting for us and it's encouraging, is Mercy Hospital. They have hospitals in 4 different states. last count I heard was 42 hospitals. And one reason I'm remaining on as a consultant, and I mentioned this to Theresa already, is to assist in implementing these programs within the Catholic hospitals that Mercy oversees, to put really to take what we have in St. Louis and reproduce it in the other hospitals. And we have a senior vice president of women's health for the whole community, East community, the whole 4-state community rather, who is heading the project. And she said, she's not a medical consultant, she's a supporter. And she said, I want every woman, regardless of the age, to have access to this information. And that's like, to me, just like a wow. I mean, that's my heart's desire. And she comes, I think she cares about the natural family planning portion of it. But I think what's driving her more strongly, perhaps, is the NAPRO technology approach, which of course goes with the Creighton Model charting also. But
Sure, yeah.
it's just great to have that kind of support at a high level in a very large hospital. So that encourages me a lot. And I feel pretty fortunate to be able to keep my finger in the door, even though we're developing new leadership.
Right,
A
right.
little off topic.
No, but it's important. Again, it shows the importance of gathering your tools to get the message out to as many people as possible. So if you've got that NFP only physician, if they're trained in NAPRO technology, if you've got your teachers, you have your ambassadors in place, we're at least doing all that is humanly possible, right? To spread the word, to be responsible for planting good seed with good information, and hopefully helping people know where they can go to when they need to learn natural family planning, or if they have issues with infertility, and it's all done according to God's plan. And that's the best that we can do. And of course, if you water all of that with good prayer, right, and offering up your hard work and your sacrifices, hopefully the Lord will bring the harvest in, and maybe we'll be able to see it too. But in any case, I'll stop myself there. Does anybody have any other questions?